Hello everyone, this is Ryan Martin, the production consultant for The Grit Live. This is a rebroadcast of episode 15 of my podcast, wealthADELPHIA. I spoke with one of the Enterprise Center's clients, Julie Hancher, the founder of Green Philly. Hello everybody, I am here today with Julie Hancher, rhymes with Jolly Rancher, that is how she told me to remember the pronunciation, and she is the founder of Green Philly. And that is an organization sort of dedicated to sustainability and promoting that and I guess spreading the word. But I don't want to put words in her mouth, so here's Julie now. So hello, Julie.
Hi, thanks for having me today.
Of course, you're quite welcome. Thank you for being here. So if you just kind of want to first tell us sort of the impetus for how it started, because I think that's a pretty interesting story, and then kind of exactly like what you do, because I don't want to, say that for you. That's why you're here.
Of course. So Green Philly really started in 2008. I was working in Malvern, Pennsylvania in my first job out of college. And I found out from a coworker that our employer was taking our recycling and throwing it into the trash can. And I thought this was a huge scandal, Recyclegate 2008, obviously. And I think the thing that really bothered me is I was taking, all my materials every day, any aluminum, glass, or whatever it was, and putting it into the recycling bin. And every single desk had a recycling bin. It wasn't just like a communal one.
Yeah.
So I was shocked by this news, and I was commuting with a coworker who also lived in Northern Liberties at the time. So this is an hour and 20 minutes, twice a day, to and from Philly to the suburbs. And we just started talking about how people didn't understand recycling and how they thought it was so much harder. And it's funny because I think 10 years later, we're getting a little bit better, but not 100%. So really, I looked at these guys that we also worked with who had this Philadelphia sports blog at the time that was hugely successful. And I looked at them and I'm like, well, if these guys can do it, why can't we? Mm-hmm. So really, once we just really put it up, went to GoDaddy, WordPress, signed a few links, and we had a website.
Cool. And what was like the first incarnation of it? Did it just kind of start as like the blog and then you sort of built everything up around that? Or so that's the first incarnation?
Well, so Green Philly, and I think this is still true to where we are today, the intention was to help people live a more sustainable lifestyle.
Okay.
So that's through easy lifestyle tips, really simple ways that you can save money, make it easy on yourself, and really just help leave a little less of an impact on the earth.
Yeah.
So that was what started, and it was really just trying to give advice, talk about what the city was doing, because in 2008 also is when Mayor Nutter declared that he wanted Philly to be the greenest city in the U.S.
Yeah.
Which obviously we are now.
Yeah.
Not really. But,
no. I mean, we're trying.
We're getting there. I mean, we do have a lot of progress and everything.
Yeah, the zero waste thing, right? I mean, that's like one of the initiatives of the 2035 plan, so that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
there's so much awesome stuff going on in the city, and they have so many plans coming out, which is really cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was really just trying to get people excited about sustainability, making it easy and accessible for everyone. And that was just an online website. We were publishing, 3 to 5 days a week.
Nice. And what is it grown into now? Like, what are some of the things that you do? Like, I know that the blog is still active, and we'll definitely have a link to this in the show notes. We'll link to everything in the show notes. But I subscribe to the blog and I read it a lot because it's it's cool. And I'm finding, everybody, just so you know, that it is a lot more easy to be sustainable than you'd think. But so, in addition to the blog, like, what other things do you guys do?
Sure. So I had this funny realization a couple years ago that we had to get offline because, ironically, I was this email marketer and doing social media and all these other things. And as I was learning SEO and all the gamuts of digital marketing, I was so focused on the online presence we had, I wasn't really thinking about taking the website offline. And then as I started meeting people through Sustainable Business Network and all these different organizations locally, I realized that, one, there were so many different people that did not know each other and weren't connected, and that we could be stronger if people were.
Yeah.
And then I think there's also this, there's a lot of people that work together, but just between nonprofits, for-profits, civic and government, and individuals who are just cleaning up their block. We wanted to really also recognize what people were doing, because there were so many people, as you just mentioned, zero waste, or someone, I knew a friend who actually now is a friend, but he basically went to the Brad Mall. He went to the Wissahickon for an entire year, and picked up trash and then did an art exhibit just to show what people had left behind in this park.
Oh, wow. That's really good because cleaning up, and then it's cool to have that art project, and then that's really cool, actually.
Yeah, and documenting waste, I was just like, this is an incredible feat that someone just put on because they were inspired by walking through, one of our city's parks and realizing how much waste was there.
Yeah.
So what we started to do was our first event was really Sustain PHL, which is now the city's annual sustainability awards and celebration.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so that's been 2 years running now. Cool. And basically we honor anywhere from 30 to 40 change makers who are making a difference, as I mentioned, just cleaning up their neighborhoods, to units in the organizations like the City of Philadelphia's Greenworks Initiative. That was once again the declaration that Mayor Nutter did in 2008, but they've done more iterations of that and tried to make that a plan so everyone can be more sustainable.
Okay. And so I guess to kind of go into your background a little bit more too, to pivot a little bit, like, so what did you go to school for? Was it like social media marketing or like SEO, or like what was your degree in college?
No, social media marketing wasn't really around when I went to college.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Which is funny because I graduated in 2006 from Penn State. But I actually really wanted to be a lawyer, so I was a political science major.
Okay.
And I just thought it'd be a really interesting career and was really excited about that. So I studied abroad in London in 2005, my junior year, and something just in me changed, and I just realized I didn't want to be a lawyer. So I left college. I had no idea what I wanted to do. No one had ever talked to me about being an entrepreneur or working for myself. So I just took my first job out of college pretty much was this email marketing and conference planning company. It was more or less to make webinars and market them and to find speakers and putting together these events, which ironically, we now do panel discussions too. So it was this really nice, setup and training for something that I didn't think I'd be using eventually, but am.
Yeah.
So that's really cool that, things come full circle. So now we, host more educational events. We're probably going to debut some more things. We're going to have a roundtable next month in February. Okay. And just try to figure out how we can help educate people and once again make sustainability more accessible no matter where they are on the, scale of sustainability.
Okay. And have you been in Pennsylvania your whole life? Is that where you grew up, or?
I did grow up in Delaware County, yes.
Okay, cool. And then you went to Penn State, way out in State College, I guess is where it is?
Oh, yeah. Yep. I guess it's 3 hours away.
Yeah, it's a husk. And how long have you been living in Philadelphia? Since 2008, or?
I guess 2007 I moved here with a friend. We moved to Northern Liberties and have just been here ever since.
That's awesome. And what has kind of kept you in Philly? Because, you could do sustainability anywhere, so.
I think seeing Philadelphia's sustainability community, how much it's been growing and how passionate people are, has been really exciting. And I think Philadelphia does have a lot of potential and is in a really exciting period where, businesses are growing. I think there's such a big entrepreneur network here.
Yeah. And
plus just the initiatives that Philadelphia is doing, for zero waste, to rethink our energy plan. We had Solarize Philadelphia, or Solarize Philly technically, come through this past fall, and they're just
which is amazing.
Yeah, they're trying to make this, solar energy less expensive and accessible for everyday Philadelphians. And I think seeing initiatives like that and really connecting with people, one of the funnest things I do is really interview, I don't want to say everyday people, but people who have been in sustainability working or aren't necessarily making headlines, but just have incredible stories of how they're making a difference on a tiny scale. And then when you think of that adding up, there are so many people doing stuff. It's just such a cool impact that we can do. Yeah,
and highlighting that, that someone's just doing whatever, collecting cans or something. That makes other people realize, oh, this, doesn't have to be intimidating. This is something that I can do. Yeah, that's it's interesting that you brought up sort of the accessibility component of it, because the fourth episode I interviewed, his name's Micah Goldmarkell. He has Solar States. And that was one of the things he said is, in a lot of ways, sustainability and the green movement is sort of still in this realm of, the rich, which is kind of, an interesting thing, because you wouldn't really think of it like that, but it is in a lot of ways, solar panels aren't cheap, I
agree. I think solar panels, I agree to an extent. I think solar panels, for example, is something that can be expensive and may not be accessible. But I think the more I've been learning about sustainability, so much of it is actually going back to our roots a couple or maybe 100 years ago. So really, plastic and everyday plastic use wasn't really a thing until after World War II. So people would save their jars. They would, have the milkman come around and physically drop off new milks and give them their eggs and dairy. It was funny. My dad actually just showed me, he has this box sitting at home, in their living room. And it's this silver box. And basically he's like, do you know what this is? And I had no idea what this box was. And it was actually when he was growing up, the milkman would leave the milk, the cheese, and everything else. And they would leave, the containers, and they would collect it and bring the new stuff. And I think this idea of reuse and really how we think about waste is something that inherently our nation, our culture wasn't a wasteful culture. And in the past X number of years, we've really had the convenience of soda bottles or anything else that you can just throw away. And there is no way, right? It goes to a landfill and sits there, is recycled. And now we're trying to figure out how to deal with this whole new thing. And it's funny because now people are going back to like, how can we reuse and be more sustainable? But the inherent nature of that is less expensive.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. It's really saving energy, which reduces money. It's saving carbon emissions. So if you're not driving as much, you can save money on public transit. So I think sustainability is actually something that is super accessible. And I think what we're trying to do is make that understandable to everyone else and making it a more inviting culture versus something that seems only accessible to certain people.
Okay. And I guess that is really your mission, that's how it got founded and everything. So what are I guess you've kind of already named a few, but what are some sustainability tips, as in a few different ways, I guess, like as an individual, like what can you just do yourself to be more sustainable? And then if someone has a business and they're listening, like what are some things that they could do to make their business more sustainable?
I would say for individuals, it's almost a be more lazy approach. So
I like that.
Exactly. So thinking before you buy, do you really need something? I think it's something that inherently we can all probably do. Trying to figure out ways to reuse. So whether you're using your mason jars, I personally like going to Mom's Organic Market or Whole Foods, having them weigh my jars, and then it's actually cheaper when you get the dry bulk foods. So if you get beans or rice, you actually save money that way. Okay. Because then they're weighing your jar and you can, do that. Bring your own coffee cup, for example. A lot of local coffee shops will give you 5 or 10 or 15 cents off just for bringing your own cup, which is really cool. And then from a business perspective, and I think this also goes into an individual, we just did an interview or a couple of interviews about green buildings. So in a building, the costs really come down to how you're, using lighting, the materials you're using, so if you're printing a lot. So as a business owner, it's really thinking about ways to go electronic, turning the lights off, really simple things that I think people can do. And once again, maybe it's like a little bit lazy to be like, rather than printing this thing, I'm going to keep it on my computer. Or if you have to print something, I admit sometimes I have to print a page or two, but you're a little bit more selective with what you're doing.
Okay. And it's, like you said, it sounds like everything is going to end up saving the business money. Using less light, using less paper, that's all things that are, really going to help the bottom line. And one thing that I that actually just reminded me, I don't know if it was recently, but I think it was in the newsletter I got from you. You had an article about the triple bottom line. And so I think Micah, when we talked, he spoke about that a little bit, but that's the triple bottom line is people, planet, profitability, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And can you kind of go into exactly like what that means? I'm sure we've kind of already hit some of the points, but to kind of just really lay it out.
Sure. So really businesses essentially are about the bottom line, how much money they're making, how much money's going out. Mm-hmm. And ultimately a lot of businesses don't really think much beyond what impact they're having. That's probably why I left one of my previous employers to work for myself 3 years ago. But the new wave is really thinking about how not only your bottom line, your financial is impacted, your financials are impacted by your business, but also what you're doing to people, planet, and profit. So you can save money by, buying cheap labor overseas, but really how are those people being treated? Are they getting a livable wage? I think that's another term that a lot of people are using. And it's really thinking more about how your business is impacting these things and holding not only your business accountable to your employees, but also to your stakeholders, any other people who are interested.
Yeah.
So organizations like B Corp, which is B Lab out in Radnor, they're basically the pioneers of formalizing that into a to a B certification.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of other businesses are just still adopting these principles because the B assessment was a little bit expensive. It can be a little bit time consuming, and not every business can do that. I think you also have to be in business for a certain number of years in order to even take the assessment.
Okay.
So really people are just saying, we care about these things, and then how can this, help our business and help communicate to consumers or other people we work with, whether you're B2B or B2C company, that this is what we stand for and this is how we're making a difference.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to mention B Lab and B Corp because they're really awesome. Are you familiar with Best for PHL at all too? Because they kind of do like the watered down quick impact assessment that B Lab has.
Yeah, I took that last year, which is pretty cool. And I think the nice thing about that too is that there are such simple steps you can take. So, for example, I just inherently have been using PNC Bank for years because that's what I got. I think when I first got to college, I got a PNC account.
Okay.
But then I realized that I could go to my local credit union and bank locally. And it was something that I just didn't think about, right? Because it's like you're paying bills, you're putting money in there. You're not really thinking about who your bank is. Mm-hmm. And I think those little, really tiny switches, it was easy. I walked over 2 blocks from here and I signed up for a new account, and it was easy. It was as easy as that to figure out.
Okay, and then that's just like the one easy step. Did you have any other goals or any other realizations from when you took the challenge, or do you care to kind of go into it? I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to, but
I'm an overachiever, so I always have like 8 new ideas anytime I take something like that.
Okay,
probably why I'm an entrepreneur, but for better or worse. But I believe the other ones I did add a line to my mission statement. Because ironically, once again, I knew those are my intentions, but I hadn't in my business plan formalized a statement. So I did add a couple of lines there, think about how we could formalize. I always wanted to do some sort of philanthropy with my business, but trying to think of how to formalize that, and make that more transparent. And I think too, as I evolved, just considering going back to B Corp and B Lab and Best for PHL and trying to use their resources. So I think that's an evolving process.
Yeah, definitely. And one other place that I did want to focus, I meant to ask earlier when we were talking about Philly, but I guess we can go back to it now, is are there any shortcomings that you've kind of identified in terms of the city that you'd like to kind of highlight as far as just areas Philadelphia could do better to kind of get to the zero waste initiative, and like the city itself could improve the sustainability?
I think people are quick to jump to conclusions and blame a certain entity. So I did a article on why is Philly so dirty, I think 3 or 4 years ago now. And I looked at, the streets apartment and trash collections, whether it was people just, and I see this living in South Philly, rolling their window down and throwing something out the window, which is a terrible, disgusting habit. And it's something that, there are all these different elements, right? Like what we're buying, as I mentioned earlier, how much we're actually buying. Are we buying a disposable product? Are we getting something refilled? So I think the thing is there's not one thing to fix. I think there are so many ways that we can take action, which is also optimistic too, right? I mean, we can't change everyone's mind who might be rolling down their window and throwing their, old water bottle outside or whatever else that is, which also makes me cringe. But how can we educate people better? How can we get them to care? And then also on an individual level, once it rains or the wind's blowing on collection day, stuff is skewed all across the street. But it's also that neighbor thinking, hey, maybe I should pick that up rather than just relying on someone else and turning that into litter. So I think there is so much, and there's so many different people working on the same problem, which is a cool and inspiring thing when you're looking around and saying, it's not just Nick Esposito from the Streets Apartment leading the Zero Waste Initiative solving this all, but what can individuals do? How can neighborhoods get involved in the associations? And then what is the city doing? And I think that's really going to take all of us. It's not going to be solved like, a magic button or, anything else.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we're kind of starting to wind down a little bit. But do you have any local resources that you'd like to plug? I mean, obviously you, but any other local resources that you've kind of come across that could help people be more sustainable, or just anything that you think the audience should know about?
Definitely. Well, we always have tips and news of what's going on Green Philly. So we also have an email list, as you mentioned. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You
beat me to the punch. I was going to ask, where can we connect with you next?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, we really just try communicating across all those methods, whether it's our recycling fails or something that is going on, that's positive. And as far as other resources, the city of Philadelphia has a lot of great guides. There's the streets department, the Office of Sustainability. Christine Knapp is doing an amazing job just, leading that effort in the city. There's other publications as well. I know Grid Magazine is the print version that you can find in a lot of coffee shops and some other cool places. And I just get a lot of my news even from, the local publication scene. So
okay, cool. And what are your handles on social media? So that is it all just Green Philly, or
everything is Green Philly blog? So if you go to Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, that's the easiest way to find us.
Okay, cool. So Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are the three accounts. All right.
Yeah, we have some others that I will admittedly don't update as often. I think we're on Pinterest still, but you might find some gems from a few years ago.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So if you want the hidden gems, guys, go to Pinterest, and then you'll find them there. All right. Do you have any other things you want to plug? I know that you said that you had an event coming up in February, right? So if your episode will be going live, I think next week, so we might not have time to plug that before then, but are there any other events that you know are happening that you'd like to kind of let everybody know about?
Well, we do actually have an events calendar on Green Philly, as well as a jobs board, so you can always check that for resources. We also accept the job, or sorry, I'm marbling on my words.
It's okay.
We also accept event listings. So if you have something that is sustainable or community focused, you can always list that for free on our website. So it's a community resource that you can post and look at. And then we do have a great lineup this year of panel discussions. Sustain PHL will be in August, and some other fun events that we'll be revealing soon enough. And also our 10-year anniversary party will probably be in June or so watch out.
If you have any feedback or would like to be featured on this program, please email us at thegritlive@gmail.com. Join us Thursday, May 3rd at Eats for Equity, a special fundraiser showcasing the Center for Culinary Enterprises and some of the businesses that you've heard on the Grit Lives programming. For more details, visit e4e2018.eventbrite.com. That's E4E2018.eventbrite.com. Thank you for listening.